Welcome to the Call It Both Ways high school basketball podcast. It took me a while to think about what we were calling this thing again. It's been a while. So, Jeff Linder, Jeff Johnson. Let's kind of dive into. We'll start with boys basketball a little bit. You had the boys version of Rivalry Saturday. What is it? MVC versus CIML shootout or whatever it is at the powerhouse, the Alliant Energy powerhouse. And how did the MVC stack up against the boys in Central Iowa?
Well, Jeff, not real well, with the exception of the last two games, which kind of saved MVC face, I guess you could say. And 7 games. We started in the morning, and I don't know what time we got done. 12 hours later, roughly. But there were some good matchups. The last two, as I said, were kind of saved face for the MVC. In the marquee game, Cedar Falls beat two-time defending champ West Des Moines Valley by, I think it was 16, 73-57. Dominated the second half. And Cedar Falls, without question, is the number one team in the big class. And that was the IHSAA rankings just came out Monday, and that was confirmed. I mean, Cedar Falls has already beaten Valley, Kennedy, Iowa City West by a lot. They played all the biggies on this side of the state and really kind of dominated. And that's a really good ball club. Has some size, has guys, a lot of guys that can shoot. Going to be a real handful. And then don't discount Dowling Valley by the time it's all said and done. Did lose Curtis Stinson Jr. in the offseason to a prep school, but still has an awful lot of talent as they go for a three-peat. And so that was a big win for the NBC. And Cedar Rapids Kennedy beat Johnston in the game prior to that in overtime, which was a big win for Kennedy because Kennedy got beat the previous night by Cedar Rapids Prairie, 70-68, the first home loss for Kennedy since 2000 or 2020, so almost 5 years. So Prairie, deserved to win that game, played very well, 170-68. And, Kennedy had lost 2 of its previous 3 games going into the game against Johnston, which is a state tournament caliber team. And, Cougars rebounded and came out with a big overtime win. Trey McCowan, Coach John McCowan's son is really stepped up his offensive game. He's averaging 20-something, heading to Upper Iowa to play for his uncle Brooks. Great mid-range game, which is something, as you know, Jeff, has kind of disappeared in today's basketball. Nobody shoots the mid-range shot anymore. So that was a big win for the Valley, and the rest, it was not real good. Bettendorf beat Iowa City Liberty in the opener by a lot. Prairie came back literally hours after the big win over Kennedy and kind of laid an egg and lost to Ames by a lot. Iowa City West beat Davenport Assumption handily. Jack McCaffrey, of course, son, Iowa coach Franz McCaffrey's youngest son, is having a real nice season. The key for them will be to find scores to go around with him. Limar with a disappointing loss against Ankeny, a team that frankly I think Limar's better than. So, and it was and Dubuque Senior was beaten soundly by Waukee Northwest as well, and that was Senior's first loss. So, it's one of those things, Jeff, where I talked to a couple coaches afterwards. None of the CIML schools that participated in this thing, except for Johnston, played on Friday night.
Makes sense.
And this was on Saturday. Yet all the Valley teams did. So that's something that I think the coaches are who want to continue to play in this thing every year are going to kind of have to decide. All right, are we going to maybe move up what would have been a Friday game to Thursday, so we have a day off to rest and prepare? Because there were a couple 3 instances there where you saw teams that just had no legs whatsoever, and didn't have anything and Prairie being a big one. Limar was another one. You could certainly tell. So it'll be interesting moving forward. The crossover challenge over in Central Iowa is in early February. Matchups still have yet to be determined, but they're bringing in some Sioux City East over from the other side of the state. Western Christian as well is going to play in this thing. So it's a good event. It's an opportunity for uh, you know, basically all three parts of the state to kind of get together and and play each other, and helps the rankings, and thus the seedings and the district and sub-state pairings later in the season. So
How are the crowds for that?
there was more this year, I think, than last year. Wouldn't say there was a ton of people by any stretch. People going in and out all day. The last two games had the biggest crowds, which you would expect, because they were 5:30 and 7 o'clock. So good times, for people to get downtown. So the court was incredibly slippery. So I don't know who dropped the ball on that. Somebody at the powerhouse did, but I mean, there were kids slipping all over the place, and the sidelines were even worse. The referees, the officials running up and down the sidelines were whoa. But
Yeah,
thankfully nobody got hurt. But that's something that shouldn't happen. I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's
right.
got to be taken care of beforehand. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's a natural move to the boys' rankings. The first IHSAA rankings came out Monday, and you're a part of the 4A voting committee. And just tell me a little bit about that. Any surprises? Was there pretty much a consensus with 4A, and what'd you find out about the other three classes as well?
Yeah, just kind of looking at them. Full disclosure, I'm on the 4A committee, so Cedar Falls #1, Valley stayed #2, Joaquin Northwest 3, Kennedy's in there at 4, and then Johnston 5. Muscatine in there at 6. It's a nice team. Beat Bettendorf last night in a big game. They're 7. Muscatine 7-0. Then Linmar, Waukee, Dowling, and Senior are your top 10. And then 3A Huxley Ballards #1. Decorah's in there at a strong #3. Kale LaFrance, Rafe's boy, 6'11" junior centers, averaging like 34 points a game.
Oh, wow.
And shooting 70-some% from the field. So he's really, really blossoming into a big-time player. Wallert's in there at 4 with Central Chen. And then you look at 2A, you got Western Christian, even though it has 2 losses, in there at #1. Interesting thing, Jeff, with the Wolfpack, Western Christian's not in a conference.
Right.
So it's scheduled on the boys' side 10 games against out-of-state teams this season. Which you can do up there. South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota. Yep. So Western's going to be another handful. They're #1. Carroll Kemper at 2, Westline 3, Grandview Christian 4. Monticello, which is undefeated, in there at 7, and Cascade at 9. Those two teams played a close game right before Christmas break, with Monty winning. And then 1A, Bellevue Marquette's up there at 1. Madrid, Fort Dodge, St. Edmund, Remsen, St. Mary's, and Woodbine. The noticeable omission here is Northland, not in the top 10 at all after a 20-point loss at Dunkerton night against Springville. Looked way more like Northland, the Northland that we're used to. And first-year head coach Travis Griffith said he didn't really pay any mind to the rankings and Northland not being in them, but he was pretty certain that the boys knew about it. So anything to motivate yourselves, right, Jeff? You know
That's
how
right.
it works. So yeah, those are the very first official rankings, and they'll come out weekly here now until the end of the season.
Okay.
So,
So I noticed you said something about Monticello. You've got something cooking on the Lambert family, right?
yeah, great people. Tim Lambert's a longtime coach here at Monticello, and really has built a tremendous program. State tournament contender every season. His brother Todd has been by his side as assistant coach throughout most of his tenure there as head coach. And they've got the brothers have three children, a daughter and two boys each, and they're all the same age. The daughters are the same age, and then the two sets of sons are the same age as well, which is unique. And a Lambert boy, whether it be a son or a nephew, has played at Monticello now for 8 straight years, and this is the eighth and final. Jack and Connor are seniors. They played since they were freshmen. Jack is Tim's boy, and Connor is Todd's boy. So you got four Lamberts on the side or playing, and then Tim's oldest son graduated from college in 3 years, and he is an assistant coach, first year assistant coach. And Todd's oldest boy just graduated from college, and he wants to get into teaching and coaching as well. So it's really ball is life for the Lambert family, no question about that. So looking
That's
forward to
awesome.
telling that story. I think it's going in Saturday's paper. So good
Great.
people, as
Yes.
you know Tim.
It's
Yeah,
always good to go up to Monticello. You know you're going to be treated well. So
yep, 100%. So.
yeah. So just let's just kind of go through the conferences real quick. We're right at the midpoint for the girls. Probably not quite there with the boys. I imagine what most boys teams probably have about 7, 8, 9 games in the books probably by now.
Yeah, exactly right about that mark. So
Yeah.
you want
So who's really kind of emerged is Kennedy the best 4A team in the Metro / Iowa City / Crandall or whatever, however
yeah,
you want to call it.
I think it's the Cougars are relatively inexperienced. I think there are three guys that played quite often last season, but the rest are kind of first year players. So on sophomore team last year that was, I think, undefeated. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, Kennedy's going to have some ups and downs here as it kind of continues to evolve as a team. So I think it's either Kennedy or Linmar are the two best teams in town. Prairie, right up there. Obviously, you'd have to say with with that win over Kennedy last week. Prairie's got a lot of young players. It's kind of counting on as well. So. And then you look at the Valley, all the good teams. I shouldn't say that, but there's a lot of good teams in one division. And that's the Mississippi division. When you look at Kennedy, Linmar, Iowa City West, and Dubuque Senior, and then Xavier sitting in there at a pretty good 3A team as well. So it's kind of weird how the division set up this season on the boys' side. Cedar Falls, obviously the best team in the Valley Division, and then others. Northeast Iowa, Decorah is the best of what, 5? Is it 5 now? I think left in the
5 for the boys and 4 for the girls because Charles City didn't have a team, but that's a story for here in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You'll talk about that in a bit. And looks like River Valley, Monticello again, Cascades right there in the north and the south. I think Iowa City Regina has kind of separated itself as a top team. Tri Rivers, Bellevue Marquette, obviously being number one in 1A is your best team in the East. And then, the West probably still goes through Northland. Alburnette's really good. Those two teams played before Christmas, a real tight game that could have gone either way. So I think those are your two best teams in that conference. And who am I missing? That's South Iowa Cedar League. Keota's got a really nice ball club again. Probably looking overall at that league. Linville Sully's good as always. It's just traditional teams. North Mahaska is really good. Monticello, Brady Bolton, who sisters I believe played right
Yeah.
for Montezuma.
Very good outside shooters.
Yes, Brady Bolton's had a tremendous season for Montezuma and had 54 points last night in a non-conference win over Centerville. So, and then the Upper Iowa looks like North Fayette Valley is kind of assumed the top spot already. Beat Lansing Key, MFL Marmac is right there with them. They have yet to play. So those are your two best teams there. And then the Walmac. I'm not sure though. I think the Walmac might be down a little bit this season, honestly. You look at the East, Mount Vernon might be your best teams. Solon's down a little bit from last season. Marion's down from last season right now. And then you kind of look over, the West Division. Clear Creek, man, I think has kind of separated itself as the best team over there. So I think I hit them all there. If I missed
you did. I think you did. So
Hillcrest Academy's got a nice team when other teams that are in our area. I have one loss for legendary coach Dwight Gingrich. So that's another team to kind of keep an eye on in our area. How about on the girls' side, Jeffrey?
Well, I saw a pretty good game last night. I covered Prairie and City High, and Prairie won that one 48-39. And you've been in the City High gym, and that's a neat venue.
It is beautiful.
Yeah. And actually, I saw the last two quarters and overtime of the boys' game. Prairie was able to come away with a 69-66 overtime win there. And
how weird is it to see Bill McTaggart on the coaching the boys, not the girls, right?
It's a different deal, but boy, they sure could have won that game. I don't know how City High about game or two under 500 for the boys.
Yeah, they're like 2-6, 2-7, but they need to be improving.
They were right there last night, and I think Bill's doing a really good job with them. So anyway, last night was one of those games. I think it's the last round of that for the girls and maybe for the boys too. That doesn't count in the conference standings. It's always kind of fun trying to figure that out. But anyway, Mississippi Division, Iowa City West is 4-0. Liberty's 3-1 in the Valley. Prairie and City High are both 4-0, even though Prairie won that game last night. Cedar Falls has a really nice team again. I think Wallert's probably just about as good as anybody. But if I had to say, if you had to rank the top three teams in the entire Valley, I'd probably go Prairie 1, maybe Wallert 2, and then I think you could go with just about any of the Iowa City schools, whether it's West or Liberty or City and Cedar Falls and Xavier. I think it's kind of a conglomeration of those teams there. Mount Vernon, going to the WAMAC, Mount Vernon's ranked number 1, and they put up 100 on South Tama last night, which, for better or for worse, I guess, with that. But they're 10-1. Their only loss this year is to Prairie. I saw them on Saturday against Regina, which is a very, very good team, and they kind of dismantled Regina. So I think they're absolutely a 3A, probably a 3A favorite to win the thing. On the other side, Williamsburg and Clear Creek are heads and shoulders against everybody else there. I'd say the entire East Division after Mount Vernon is pretty close to each other. I think probably all 6 of those teams are probably better than the third team in the West. So River Valley, Maquoketa's 10-0, one of 2 remaining unbeaten teams. Maquoketa Valley is the other. Cascade's good. Monticello's got Jaden Cooper. So 3 really good teams there. Regina's, I think head and shoulders the best team in the South. You talked about Marquette's boys being number 1. Their girls are undefeated and the team to beat in the Tri-Rivers East. Maquoketa Valley has a 1-game lead in the West over Northland by virtue of their win shortly before break. Jessup and Wapsie Valley are tied for first place in the NICL East. Decorah looks like they're going to give some parting gifts to the teams, the rest of the teams in the Northeast Iowa that basically kind of kicked them out of the party up in that end of the state. South Iowa Cedar League, the strength is in the West. North Mahaska, Montezuma, and Linville-Foley are the three best teams there. English Valleys is leading the East with a 7-2 overall record, 6-1 in the conference, and they're doing it with a really young team. Upper Iowa looks like a 3-team, maybe 4-team race. Turkey Valley, MFL, Lansing Key, and North Fayette Valley. And among our other teams, Lone Tree is 9-2. They're on a bit of a win streak after avenging an earlier loss to Highland, and I think they won by 40 plus points last night. So,
wow.
So that's kind of where things are at with the girls as we hit the midpoint there.
We probably should point out HLV and Tri-County have combined programs.
Yep, and just about everything now.
Yep, I believe so. Yep. And Alburnett is going to leave the Tri-Rivers after this school year, academic year, and join the River Valley.
And they're going, you said, to the South Division, right?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
Okay, because if they would go south, that would give both divisions 8 teams.
Okay.
And, if they would go north, I imagine that kicks Comanche to the south. I guess I don't know exactly what the protocol is there. You wouldn't think they'd go 9-7, but, Comanche is kind of a good fit with the north. That's kind of its old Big Bend buddies.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. From way back when. And I think Alburnett would fit in each. I think Alburnett's probably a better fit for the South, even though I'm not sure that's the best call geographically. But I think enrollment-wise, that's probably where it belongs. It would be in the South Division with some of those old Eastern Iowa Hawkeye Conference schools.
Is that? I think it's a good fit. Alburnett's just a good fit for that conference.
I agree.
Kind of outgrew the Tri-Rivers. Is that fair to say?
I think so. With the enrollment that they've got coming in, the open enrollment coming in, they're just about a 3A school in girls sports now.
Wow.
So, I think that'll be a good fit, and I think they'll be able to compete. Next, Lisbon is probably one of the very, very few schools in that conference that's growing. I wonder. I would think Lisbon would be a good fit for that South Division as well.
Yeah.
If it ever comes to that.
Exactly.
I guess while we're talking Tri-Rivers, I'm working on a story about girls basketball participation and the decades decline in that. Central City does not have a team this year. Does not have a varsity team, does not have a JV team. They've just kind of given it a 1-year hiatus. I think it sounds like they're going to go back to having a JV team next year because they should have pretty good numbers coming in through their 7th and 8th grade classes. My guess would be they would be JV for a year and then go varsity in, what would it be, 26, 27?
Yep.
So, they've got some pretty good 7th and 8th graders, about 12 between those two classes. And if you got 12, that's not bad. If they can keep all or most of those, then, maybe they can be competitive again here in 2 years.
I know that I'm not going to spoil or spill any of the beans. I know you're working on a big story on that. That'll be out soon. What do you want to say, or what have you been able to find about?
It's not good. Girls basketball is down 38% in the last 15 years. I would imagine, I think when they went 5-on-5 only in the early 90s, there were probably 20,000 plus girls that played. Now it's down to 6,100 last year, probably less than that this year. 6 schools are not having varsity teams this year in Iowa. We mentioned Central City. But 4 of these schools are, I would say, pretty good sized schools. Charles City, Clarion Goldfield Dows, Sibley Oshedin was a 2A run semifinalist 2 years ago. They don't have a varsity team. West Sioux. So those are schools that have good enrollment. I think Charles City averages about 250 kids a grade. Is that right? Maybe it's not quite that many, but they've got big classes there. And as far as what the reasons are, I don't know. Club volleyball is a popular scapegoat. I don't think it's the only reason. I don't think I don't think wrestling's the reason. It pretty much, the common theme I've gotten from the people I've talked to is this. It's a skill-based sport. It's physical. You've got to run up and down the court, and it's not for everybody. And, I think there's a wide chasm between the really, really elite, really skilled players that start at a young age, and then the more recreational players who pick up a ball, maybe once or twice in the summer, and then, come out of volleyball and they're way behind. And you know how youth sports work. If you're not at it by second, third, fourth grade, you're behind. And that's a real tough race to win when you're that far behind. So, I found a lot of things that I found interesting. Looking forward to people reading it, and probably won't make everybody happy, but that's okay.
How about the difference between the haves and the have-nots program? I mean, as far as competitiveness, you see spreads, and you see it on the boys' side, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, somebody scoring 100 points last night.
Yeah, Mount Vernon beat South Tama 100-21.
How much of that is a factor, and girls just not going out?
Well, I wouldn't want to keep going out and getting my head bashed in every Tuesday and Friday night. I mean, I played on a team in high school that wasn't very good, and it wasn't fun, but I never thought about not playing. I mean, that's just what we did 40 years ago. And, it is demoralizing to go out and get beat all the time, but I guess in some cases you just got to get better or face the consequences. But I don't know. If I had all the answers to this, I'd be a lot smarter of a person than I am.
And you'd be working for the girls' union, because they'd hire you to try and fix this problem. So
yeah, I don't know what's fixable. We've I hate the phrase, but everybody talks about the Clark effect.
Clark.
Yeah, and I think what she did at Iowa, I think, is going to help girls basketball. I think it's going to help participation, but it's still a few years off.
Sure.
The people that really, really, were into this were the elementary school kids, the 1st through 5th graders. And I think that's kind of the future. I think those are the kids that, might be responsible for a participation renaissance in Iowa. At least that's the hope.
Nice segue. Do you want to talk about Iowa women quick?
Yeah. They're good. They're not great. It's not a Final Four team. It's a fun team. The kids play hard. Jan Jensen said today that it's a gritty team. They're resilient. They have a lot of fun. It's not a team that's going to score 95 points a game like we've seen. We've all got accustomed to the last 3 years, but I think this is kind of a bridge year, with Jan's first year. They've got a really good freshman class, and 4 of those 5 kids are already starting to make, get a lot of minutes. And I think with Addie Deal coming in next year, I think we're 2 years from Iowa being really good again.
Okay.
So
it's been, would you say, kind of a seamless transition for coaching?
I think so. People on social media might disagree. I mean, there's kind of some wolves howling there about substitution patterns and who's getting minutes and stuff like that. But I guess you just got to ignore some of that stuff. But I think Jan's gonna do a really good job. The recruiting, she's a good recruiter. She's obviously good with the post players. I think she hired well to get some good people on her staff. And but the Big Ten, it's bigger and it's better now. USC, UCLA are both national championship possibilities. Maryland's not going anywhere. Ohio State's good. So, with if they finish 6th or 7th or 8th, people say, oh my gosh, but with this league having 18 teams now, I mean, 8th is the new 4th from the old Big 12. So,
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
What's Iowa got this week?
They are at Illinois tomorrow and gonna hitchhike over to Champaign tomorrow, and then actually I'm gonna take the company car, and then I've got they host Indiana on Sunday.
Okay, very good.
So before we sign off, you're in other beats. You're doing a story on the 25th anniversary of the first game with the Rough Riders.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool. It was somebody pointed it out to me. Thank you for doing that, by the way. January 9, 2000, which tomorrow's January 9, was the very first hockey game in Cedar Rapids, and Rough Riders beat the Rochester Mustangs, no longer in existence, in a shootout, 4-3 that night. And I remember bits and pieces of it. I just remember there was 4,100 people there. They were loud. They were into it. And, I was able to talk to Mark Carlson, the head coach, who's still here, obviously 25 years later. And he gave some thoughts and caught up to a couple of guys or kids who were on that team. They're not kids anymore. They're 44 years old. So that's going to post that online here shortly. And that'll be in tomorrow's paper. And it's pretty cool. It's hard to believe. 25 years, man. I'm telling you, Lindy. I'm telling you. So,
it doesn't seem possible. I remember, I remember when they were in their first year. I think there was first or second year there, they had a playoff game that went like triple or quadruple overtime. Do you remember that? And I think,
playoff game. Yeah. Bet. Yeah.
And I think, I was working the desk that night, and we worked till our old 4 to 12 shifts, and I think Halas and I went over to the arena after the game to watch, and we watched the very end of it. I
was over at the baseball stadium and covered a Colonel's game, and came over and caught like the last 2 or 3 overtimes. And Cedar Rapids won it. Alexander Valentin, kid from Russia. I don't know why I remember that, but a lot of memories over there. And hopefully you'll pick up a copy of the paper tomorrow and read about game 1. It was cool to go back and look at all the stuff we wrote on the very first game. So, and congratulations to Jeff, everyone. Jeff, congratulations on winning Sports Writer of the Year for the state of Iowa. Well, very well deserved. I know you don't want to talk about it. You're a very humble person, and that's what I love about you. But congratulations to you. Very much.
Well, thanks. And like I told you and KJ the other day, I certainly consider this a team award. Both of you are surely just as deserving as I am. So, but it's been a lot of fun, and I speak for you and I speak for KJ. We still enjoy going to work every day and seeing what happens next.
Absolutely. All right, what's happening next? Real quick, the weekend. What do you got Friday?
Well, to be determined. There aren't really a lot of great games on the schedule Friday. I'll be coming back from Illinois. That's going to be a trip that's going to throw in quite a few hours. So if hours allow, I'll cover a girls game Friday. If not, then it'll be on to the Iowa women on Sunday. How about yourself?
Yeah, senior at Kennedy on Friday night. Should be a pretty good game. Couple top 10 teams there. So looking forward to that.
All right. And you don't have 7 games to sit through on Saturday.
That's right. Only once a year, but it's fun. So
Yep, it is. So all right. Well, I think we'll shut this down for this week. Plan to be back next Wednesday. For JJ, for me, thanks for joining. And my gosh, call it both ways.